Star Wars continues to be nothing but a zombie franchise, and no matter what Lucasfilm do, they can't figure out a way how to bring it back to life, and that's because they killed it already. It is already dead, and that is because of their incompetent leader, her incompetent minions. It's just overall an incompetent company filled with incompetent people. That's where you're at when it comes to Lucasfilm, and we continue to see the effects that they've had on the Star Wars brand, the amount of damage that they've done to it. We had Ahsoka premiere the other week, and what do you know? Ahsoka has abysmal viewership. I am not surprised in the slightest because of the amount of people they have pissed off, especially with their Disney Plus shows. I think a lot of the damage and the reason why people have just completely dropped out and are not interested in coming back no matter what you dangle in front of their faces is because of Obi-Wan. I think that put a lot of people off. That really killed it fully, to the point where no one is interested in watching any of these shows. And even the people that do just go and check out the first episode, there is nothing there to catch people, to bring people in, to keep people around. So even what the premiere viewership is, I imagine that's cut completely in half by the second episode. That would be my assumption. But yet again, we have another Star Wars show that is failing to bring in any audience. What did it bring in? It brought in 1.2 mil. Right, that's embarrassing then, isn't it? That's very embarrassing. And again, it further proves how dead Star Wars is as a brand. I mean, Stranger Things does better than this. Just almost every show does better than how these Star Wars shows do. So US households watched the premiere episode of Ahsoka over its first 6 days on Disney Plus. 1.2 million. That is all it managed. It's very similar to the viewership of Andor, which is the good show. It's still, you know, it's a bit of a shame that didn't get the attention that it should. But again, that's what Lucasfilm have done to the brand, to the point that it doesn't even matter if you bring something out that's actually good. People are still not going to show up for it. And it's, as I say, I think the majority of that, especially with the Disney Plus shows, comes from Obi-Wan and how disappointed people were with it. You pissed off the OT fans with your sequel trilogy, and then people were like, right, well, the prequel fans, we've got them to, you know, offer up Ewan McGregor, he's back as Obi-Wan, and then you somehow managed to piss those people off as well. You don't really see anything positive said about Obi-Wan, so I think that really is the root of it. I think The Mandalorian, did pretty well for its first 2 seasons. Still not very good, but people were interested in it. And then you get to the likes of Boba Fett and then Obi-Wan, and that just completely puts it in the toilet. So that is what it managed to do, and it's slightly lower than The Mandalorian's 3rd season. It's not quite as bad as The Mandalorian Season 3. I'm sure it's going to get there eventually. I mean, that's just kind of what you expect with Star Wars. So that is what it brought in, 1.2 million. And that is just to mention over its first 6 days. So it took it 6 days to get to 1.2 million, whereas you take Obi-Wan, for instance, US households watched the premiere of Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney Plus so that's over 4 days, and it brought in 2.14 million. And then you compare that to Ahsoka's over the course of 6 days, 1.2 million, and that really shows you how far in the toilet it is. It is already flushed. Someone has already flushed it. So my assumption is, yeah, there's no one sticking around for this show. There's nothing there for it to offer anybody. And my guess is this is just going to piss off another subsection of the Star Wars fan base. I imagine Rebels fans, probably, you know, at least based on what I've heard, people that are fans of the show, have watched the show, have said that none of these characters represent the characters from Rebels whatsoever. They've added a lot of stuff in that wasn't there beforehand. So my guess is you've already pissed off more people, that is just going to do more damage to the overall brand. And I mean, at this point, what do they have left to damage? I mean, after Ahsoka, they've got nothing else to pull from. They've got nothing to go, right, well, we've got this fan base still. Let's do so. You've got nothing left after this. So it's pretty much over. So that is what it's done. So yeah, abysmal. But that is where the Star Wars franchise is. As noted by Samba TV, this is lower than their premiere numbers for The Mandalorian Season 3. Season 3 premiere drew in 1.6 million US households, as you can see here. I'm not sure how many days over that is. Looking back at Obi-Wan Kenobi, Samba TV reported the series had been viewed by 2.14 million US households in its first 4 days, streaming on Disney Plus, and it took Ahsoka 6 days just to get over 1 million. Embarrassing. Interestingly, they also reported that this bested the Mandalorian Season 2 premiere, which brought in 2.8 million US households in its first 4 days, as well as the Book of Boba Fett, which brought in 1.5 million for its premiere. So it's just, all you see from Star Wars is just a continued downward trend. There's nothing they've got to offer. Nothing to offer anybody based on the first 2 episodes we've got of Ahsoka. And why would you expect people to show up in the first place when you've provided nothing but shit for so long? We started with Disney Star Wars with the sequel trilogy, terrible. Went into The Mandalorian, sure, people were interested, still pretty terrible. Then you go into Book of Boba Fett, terrible, you know, no one interested in that. You then get Obi-Wan, people are like, oh, right, we like Ewan McGregor, maybe we'll get something out of this. I mean, I don't know who was expecting it to be, but maybe there was a chance, but no, they've just provided nothing but shit. And I think just that continuous amount of shit they have poured out has just done so much damage. So much damage, at least when it comes to the Disney Plus series. And they're talking about, well, we're gonna do a Rey movie. It's like, you got no clue. This company is so incompetent, it just amazes me. It is so hilarious to watch these buffoons fall over themselves to try and get an audience back, and they just fail every time because they go, oh, let's make a Rey movie. It's like, did you learn nothing? No, they didn't learn anything. While the Book of Boba Fett might have only brought in 1.5 million US households in 4 days, Samba TV reported it brought in 1.7 million in its first 5 days in January 2022. They posted on Instagram 1.7 million US households watched the series premiere of the Book of Boba Fett in its first 5 days of streaming. As noted above, Samba TV reported The Mandalorian Season 2 brought in 2.8 million US households in its first 4 days. The data firm previously reported in November 2020 The Mandalorian Season 2 premiere had raked in 1.4 million US households, albeit they did not provide a time frame. So it's possible this data was based on the initial day it released rather than over the course of 4 days. So again, it's just a continued downtrend, and that is what we're seeing with Ahsoka. 1.2 million, that is how long it took to get to, it took 6 days to get there. That shows you the lack of interest. Whereas if this was before the sequel, you know, you could imagine how well it would be doing. How much interest there would be there. But no, Lucasfilm killed it. They have completely killed it. They've got nothing to offer anybody anymore. I mean, what else have they got after Ahsoka? I don't even know. There's Season 4 of The Mandalorian. People were already pissed off with that. They already checked out. So you've already lost that one as well. No, they're going to do a Rey movie. Dave Filoni's going to do a movie, even though he's proven he's fucking shit. Yet people hold him up as some type of god. He's terrible. He's terrible. I don't know about Rebels, but maybe coming into the live action medium just isn't for him. He can't seem to get there, as we've seen throughout The Mandalorian and now Ahsoka. It's very apparent this guy doesn't know what he's doing. But they're going, oh, give Dave Filoni a film. But, you know, Ahsoka, that's already done. You know, that's already a failure. At this point, you know, 1.2 million, that's just for its, I imagine, its first episode. And I imagine these shows really fall apart in terms of viewership the longer they go on. Especially from what we got out of the first 2 episodes. Very little. It's just, oh, Ahsoka looks over there for a long time. And then runs about for a MacGuffin, that being a ball that has a map. So it's just a load of bollocks that has nothing of value. Nothing of value to add to the Star Wars brand. So that is why we continue to see this, and it's only going to get worse.